People who have been divorced. What was the exact quiet moment you realized your marriage was over? Not divorced, but living with my partner 8 years. He kept insisting that his passive insults were actually harmless comments, and me being offended by them was the actual issue. One day at breakfast I decided to stop fighting it. He said his passive insult, and instead of taking the bait I just smiled and said okay. He literally choked on his drink. He panicked when I wouldn't go into the cycle with him. He then went over the top on a love-bombing kiss when he left for work. He had stopped kissing me how I liked, insisting he couldn't figure it out despite having done it for years. But that morning he said, I know how you want to be kissed, and did it proper. I knew without a doubt that he had been doing this on purpose. He was emotionally abusive on purpose, and I had been a fool to believe it had been poor communication. No big fight. No massive fallout. Just a smile and the word okay, and I knew it was 100% over. When I had thoughts of, I'd rather be dead than to be in this marriage anymore, I knew I needed help and needed to leave. Of course that was after multiple other very negative things. Hugh was telling a story at a dinner party that I'd heard 1,000 times, and I realized I wasn't just bored, I actively disliked the person he was pretending to be for our friends. I looked down at a plate and realized I didn't want to spend the next 40 years pretending to like that guy. I checked out right there over the mashed potatoes. Her parents used to come for month-long visits. Often. The one time my mother needed to stay with us, Mum sold her house and had to wait a few weeks for her apartment to be ready. She flat out refused. That was the straw. Finding my ex-wife had slept with a good friend. Again, after forgiving her once and trying to move on. No shouting or hysterics, just resignation on my part. Reading these comments makes me realize how many people are just ghosts in their own homes. It's heartbreaking when the person who is supposed to be your peace becomes your biggest source of anxiety. I'd say when a friend of mine took me to the side and pointed out how she talks to me sometimes in public and how she shouldn't be that way, I got snapped on for putting curry powder on a slice of chicken on my own plate FFS, but that is glad I'm not a doormat about it. I kinda knew then that she liked the idea of us, and having that perfect-looking marriage in life, more than she actually was into me. A whole lot of other stuff happened that ultimately lead to the divorce that I won't write a novel on, but I'd say this is what first put the seed in my mind that something is off here. When I begged to cut my long hair and he said no. This was after he already decided that I couldn't wear a skirt above my knees. Mind you, I'm not Amish and lived in large city. I also don't need to call spaghetti sauce a gravy any longer. When he said he liked being married because he didn't have to try anymore. They went on a boys' weekend trip, and there was news that a plane originating from that airport had crashed. Instead of feeling worried, my first feeling was hope. It was totally involuntary and unexpected. And it terrified me. When you feel a glimmer of hope that they may be dead, you know it's time. Yerks. I was at work. He got drunk and choked out 13-year-old special needs child. My son beat him off with a curtain rod he ripped off the wall. Yes, I left. Yes, I notified the authorities. Yes, I got sole legal and physical custody of our child. When dinner felt like eating alone at the same table, I knew it was finished. Just saying, this turned out to be the most interesting answers I have seen here in a while. Good question. Sitting in the same room, both on our phones, and realizing the silence felt like relief, not peace. I came home on a Saturday after working my second job for about 16 hours, and my husband had been home all day playing video games. My dog, despite us being together for 10 years, had been sick that week, and he had just gone to a different part of the house and ignored him all day, so there were piles of diarrhea on the carpet. My husband asked me when I was going to clean up and shovel the sidewalk driveway as it had snowed 8 inches that day, and that he had invited a friend over to watch a game. It was abundantly clear that my life would be easier without this husband. My ex kept taking his mother's side on everything. I was getting physically, verbally, and emotionally abused, manipulated, and gaslit. I was the third wheel in my marriage due to his mother. She literally lived like 5 miles away. She would rearrange shit in my house. Barge in on doctor's appointments with my children. Was too medically invasive and dismissive at the same time. He talked to her like an hour on the phone every night. Funny thing is, about 5 years after our divorce he went no contact with her for being medically invasive with him. Like it was okay with me but not okay with him. We co-parent now, but when my youngest graduates high school, I'm out of here. The day after my soul cat, an unofficial service animal, died, he told me he had hated and resented her for the past 6 years. Those 6 years, she had helped me survive sepsis and kept me alive because I stopped breathing overnight. She hadn't been gone a full 24 hours and he had the audacity to tell me those things. I vowed in that moment that I would leave him in life or in death. I finally have a way out and I am starting the divorce process this summer. Twice divorced here. First time when I came home from visiting our son in the NICU and he was in bed with another woman. Second time when I came out of surgery and they told me it wasn't cancer, leaving only lupus as my diagnosis, and my husband had already told me he could hang for a cancer fight but could not fight what can't be cured. In the recovery room I used the phone and called my lawyer. No reason to fight. He is a great dad. He was badgering me about making a financial decision that I wasn't ready to make because of boring reasons I won't get into. When I explained, again, why I was hesitating, he displayed clear contempt for me in all the non-verbal ways a person can. I saw it in his eyes. I left him 2 weeks later. When while doing our weekly shop, I got berated for wanting to buy some good quality coffee and he told me he wasn't going to pay for it. I blurted out, "EFFS, it's one of the few things that brings me joy." I knew I was done then. As a newlyish wed, 1 year next week, this thread is terrifying, but also I feel like it's important to read these stories so I know what it might look like if things aren't working out. Thanks to everyone sharing and being honest. When he insisted he wasn't going to give her up, but if I wanted, I could fight for him to keep fucking me too. When she came to my workplace and told me I had *** gonorrhea from her fucking around ***. When I finally accepted I'd never be good enough for him, no matter how hard I tried or how much effort I put into it. When I finally said, enough. I was talking to my preteen son about relationships and started crying at the thought of him being in a relationship with anyone who treated him the way his dad treated me. The moment my ex-wife's boss, and as it turned out boyfriend, told me the baby she was carrying wasn't mine. Okay, maybe not the quietest moment, but certainly the most defining. DNA testing proved I am the father, and he turned out to be an incredible blessing, despite the awful circumstances around the time of his birth.